SABC News. Now, the rand continues to weaken as credit downgrades to junk continue to weigh. Ratings agency Fitch on Friday followed S&P Global Ratings and downgraded South Africa to junk. I'm now joined on the line from Hong Kong by Jan Friederich. He's the Senior Director and Head of Middle East and Africa Sovereign at Fitch Ratings. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us on SABC News. The downgrade came quite abruptly. What influenced you to act so quickly after the changes?
Well, we did see that the decision for the cabinet reshuffle was a real change in direction of policy and not just a change in personnel. And we felt that such a change in policy really warranted to react right away and to adjust the ratings to this kind of new reality. Essentially, our view was that the reshuffle meant significantly less focus on any further improvements of state-owned enterprise governance and a significant chance of actually reversing earlier progress. And the committee also felt that there was a significant chance that fiscal consolidation, which had already been quite difficult in the years before, would become even less of a priority given the greater focus of the entire government and of course the president on the radical socioeconomic transformation.
Will you also be rating state-owned enterprises?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Will you also be rating state-owned enterprises?
We have ratings for state-owned enterprises such as Eskom. They are done by a different group within Fitch, and I could not really comment on that.
Okay. So, National Treasury has said that Fitch foresaw higher economic growth for South Africa. Is this true, and if so, is this still the outlook?
I'm sorry, the line is quite bad. Can you repeat that question again, please?
Okay, our National Treasury has said that Fitch foresaw higher economic growth for South Africa. Is this true, and if so, is this still the outlook?
Well, we certainly didn't see higher growth as a consequence of the cabinet reshuffle. Our forecast for this year is 1.2%, for next year 2.1%. So that is of course an acceleration. We must say that the cabinet reshuffle now puts that forecast to a degree at risk. We had seen for a while that concerns of companies about the investment climate and about the policy environment was a very important factor in keeping the GDP growth rate quite low. And this kind of uncertainty, of course, has increased as a consequence of the reshuffle. Their fears may have increased, and that means that the risks to the recovery and even the risk to the forecast for this year have probably increased. So there's a greater downside now for the growth forecast.
Mm-hmm. Now, new Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba spoke to ratings agencies such as yourself and assured them that policy would not change. What were your impressions from the discussions that you had with him and what he was saying to you?
Well, so the statements that we hear from him also publicly are certainly that fiscal policy has not changed. What we now will need to see to what extent pressures on the finance minister might be mounting and to what extent that will be possible to sustain. Our assumption is that these pressures will be rising. Given that there is a new focus on other policies, on socioeconomic transformation, which could involve costly additional expenditure, and most importantly, we are again quite concerned about what is going to happen to state-owned enterprises, what's happening to the governance of SOEs. And their liabilities are already relatively high. The concern is that their liabilities might now be increasing even faster than would have been the case otherwise. A major consideration in that context over the medium or longer term is clearly what's going to happen to the nuclear program, which has implications for these SOE liabilities.
Mm-hmm. You've spoken about your caution around nuclear and also pressures that you've just spoken about on the new finance minister. Take us through why you're uncomfortable and what kind of pressures you think that he will be under.
Well, for one thing, just simply, it's pretty clear that tensions within the ANC have increased as a consequence of the reshuffle. That means that political energy will be focusing more on dealing with these internal problems and less on dealing with the economic policy challenges that South Africa faces. So that's one concern. The other matter is that the fiscal policy, maintaining the focus on fiscal consolidation, is something that I think has been thought about quite heavily before, and the impression now is that this emphasis is on fiscal consolidation is just weaker than it would have been was previously, and we may well not see breaches in the expenditure ceiling this year, for example. But the challenges in that direction will probably be increasing.
Jan Friederich from Fitch, thanks so much for joining us on the line there from Hong Kong. Now,